Divine supply has your name on it. I want you to hear that again and let it land somewhere deeper than your ears. Divine supply has your name on it, not someone else's name. Not the name of the person who appears more qualified, more educated, more connected, more polished, more deserving by the world's narrow and inaccurate measure of who gets to receive. Your name. Written before you were born, written in the language of eternity, written by a hand that has never made a mistake, never forgotten a promise, never issued a decree that it failed to fulfill. Your name is on the supply. Your name is on the abundance. Your name is on the financial freedom, the overflow, the open doors, the unexpected blessings, the divine appointments, the miraculous reversals, the sudden breakthroughs, and every form of increase that the infinite has been preparing since before you took your first breath. It belongs to you. It was always yours. And today, right now, in this moment, you are going to stop waiting for it to find you by accident, and you are going to open your mouth and declare it into your atmosphere with the full authority of one who finally understands what they carry and who they are. You have been waiting long enough. You have been patient in the wrong way. There is a patience that is rooted in trust, and there is a patience that is rooted in passivity, and they look similar from the outside, but they produce entirely different results. The patience of trust speaks. It declares. It gives thanks in advance. It acts on what it believes, even before the evidence arrives. The patience of passivity goes quiet. It shrinks. It says maybe one day and someday, and when things change, and if things work out. That second patience is not faith. It is dressed in the clothes of faith, but underneath it is fear. Underneath it is the ancient lie that says you are not quite worthy enough, not quite ready enough, not quite positioned enough to step forward and claim what was already placed in your name before the foundation of the world. Today that lie loses its grip on you. Today you shed it. Today you open your mouth, and the sound that comes out is not a timid request. It is not a desperate plea. It is not the whimper of someone who has been denied too long and no longer believes they deserve an answer. It is a declaration. It is a proclamation. It is the sound of a person who has remembered who they are and what they carry and who their source is. And that sound shakes the invisible and moves what nothing else could move. I declare now that my supply is released. Not on its way eventually. Not pending approval. Not subject to review by circumstances or seasons or the opinions of other people. Released. Right now. Already in motion. Already flowing through the channels of divine intelligence toward every area of my life that has known lack, that has known shortage, that has sat in the valley of not enough and cried out without a visible answer. The answer was never absent. The supply was never withheld. The source never ran dry. What was missing was not the provision. What was missing was the declaration. What was missing was the voice, the bold, unwavering voice of faith that rises up and says, I know who my source is, and I know that source never fails, and therefore I cannot be failed. I speak that now. My supply is released. Every financial channel in my life is opening now. Every blocked stream is clearing now. Every door that fear locked and doubt sealed and unbelief nailed shut is swinging open now, because I have spoken, and what I speak carries power, and what I declare in faith, the universe must answer. I know who my source is. This is the foundation of everything. This is the truth that changes everything. When you do not know your source, you look to people, and people disappoint you. You look to jobs, and jobs are eliminated. You look to economies, and economies shift. You look to circumstances, and circumstances change with the wind. But when you know that God is your source, when that truth is not a concept you have heard, but a reality you have internalized, a knowing so deep it has become the bedrock of your consciousness, then nothing in the visible world has the power to threaten your supply. Because your supply does not live in the visible world. Your supply lives in the infinite. It lives in the eternal. It lives in the realm that is not subject to recession or inflation or market collapse or political instability or the decisions of any person who has ever tried to block what was prepared for you. God is my source. I say it slowly, I let it settle. God is my source, not my employer, not my clients, not my business, not my investments, not my family, not any human being on the face of this earth. These are channels through which my supply may flow, but they are never the source. The source is God, and the source has not closed. The source has not reduced my allocation. The source has not forgotten my name. The source is open and full and flowing, and it is flowing toward me now with a force and a generosity that will leave me standing in wonder when I see it fully manifest. I stop waiting this day. I stop standing at the window of hope, watching for something to arrive that I have not yet spoken into existence. I stop being passive in the face of promises that were made for me to activate, not to receive by default while doing nothing. I understand now that declaration is an act of faith, and faith without corresponding action is incomplete. The action that faith requires first and foremost is the action of the mouth. It is the action of speaking the truth out loud, of naming what is yours, of calling forth what has been prepared, of standing in the invisible and commanding the visible to come into alignment with divine reality. I take that action now. I have taken it before, but today, I take it with a new level of understanding, a new depth of conviction, a new boldness that has been born from the realization that I have nothing to lose by declaring and everything to gain, and that the only reason I have not seen more of my supply manifest is that I have been too quiet for too long. I declare that wealth has my name on it. I declare that financial increase has my name on it. I declare that debt freedom has my name on it. I declare that overflow has my name on it. I declare that every good thing I have ever asked for, every provision I have ever prayed about, every dream I have carried, in the deepest, most secret chamber of my heart, has my name written on it, in the realm of the Spirit. And it is looking for me with the same intensity and the same longing with which I have been looking for. The supply and the receiver are moving toward each other. The blessing and the believer are converging. The provision and the person for whom it was prepared are being drawn together by the irresistible law of divine alignment, and nothing, not fear and not doubt, and not past failure, and not the length of the wait, and not the loudness of the lies, and not the smallness of the current evidence, nothing can stop what divine intelligence has set in motion for my life. I now speak to the delay, and I tell it that its assignment against me is over. I speak to the feeling of being overlooked, and I declare it has no legal standing in my life. I speak to the pattern of almost, of nearly, of so close, and yet not quite, and I declare that pattern is broken today by the power of my declaration and the faithfulness of my source. There will be no more almost, there will be no more not quite. There will be no more watching others step into the very thing I was qualified for and prepared for and had waited for, only to see it pass by my door without stopping. The season of passing by is finished. What is mine will not pass by me. What has my name on it will not mistake my door. What has been prepared for me will not be redirected to another address. I am found. I am seen. I am claimed by the supply that was always mine, and it is arriving now in perfect timing and perfect order and perfect amount. I speak to my finances, and I say, rise. I do not speak to them with anxiety. I do not look at them with shame. I do not bow my head before them as though they have dominion over me. I look at my financial life with the eyes of faith, not the eyes of current circumstances, not the eyes of bank balances and statements and numbers that represent only where I have been, not where I am going. And where I am going is upward. Where I am going is into the fullness of divine supply. Where I am going is into the abundance that has been prepared for me since before I entered this earth. Rise, I say to every financial figure in my life. Rise, I say to my income. Rise, I say to my savings. Rise, I say to my net worth. Rise, I say to my capacity to generate, to attract, to hold, to multiply, and to distribute wealth for the glory of the one who is the source of it all. Rise, not by my effort alone. not by the grinding, straining, exhausting force of human ambition operating from fear. Rise by the law of divine increase, operating through a life that is aligned with truth and submitted to the wisdom of the infinite. I refuse to stay small in my thinking about what I can receive. I refuse to cap my expectations at the level of what I have seen before, at the level of what my parents experienced, at the level of what my community normalized, at the level of what the voice of lack told me was the reasonable amount to hope for. God is not limited by what I have seen. God is not constrained by what my family experienced. God is not required to replicate the patterns of my past when it comes to what He delivers into my present and my future. The divine supply that has my name on it is not measured by the measuring tools of the natural world. It is measured by the infinite capacity of the source that prepared it. And the source is without limit. The source is without end. The source does not run calculations based on scarcity. The source operates from a place of absolute abundance, and it is from that place, from that limitless, inexhaustible overflow, that my supply was prepared, which means my supply is limitless, which means my supply is inexhaustible, which means the amount of good that can flow into my life is not determined by what I can currently imagine, but by the magnitude of the one who prepared it. I now take my hands off the timeline. This is one of the hardest declarations for a waiting heart to make, and it is one of the most powerful. I take my hands off the timeline. I release my grip on the calendar. I stop counting the days and the weeks and the months and the years, and calculating how long it should have taken based on my human understanding of how things work. Divine timing is not human timing. Divine order is not the order I would have arranged. The route that the supply takes to reach me is not always the route I would have mapped. And this is not a failure of the system. This is the genius of the system. Because divine intelligence sees further than I see. It sees around corners I cannot see around. It arranges intersections of blessing and opportunity and readiness in ways that my limited perspective cannot track or predict. And when the supply arrives, if I have stayed in faith rather than collapsing into the impatience of unbelief, I will look back at the timing and understand, even if only partially, why it came when it came and not a moment sooner. I trust the timing. I release the timeline. And in that release I find a peace that actually accelerates the arrival, because peace is the posture of the receiver and anxiety is the posture of the one who blocks what they are trying to get. Let me declare something right now that some part of you has needed to hear for a long time. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not a case that the divine supply somehow overlooked or misplaced in the cosmic filing system of blessings. There is no cosmic filing system where your name got shuffled to the back. There is no divine registry where some paperwork got lost. There is no error in the system that caused your supply to be rerouted to someone else or indefinitely delayed without reason. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. The supply that has your name on it knows exactly where you are. It is not confused about your address. It is not uncertain about your identity. It is not questioning whether you qualify. It was sealed with your name before you were born, and it is navigating toward you right now through the perfect channels of divine wisdom, and it will arrive at precisely the right moment, with precisely the right amount, in precisely the right form for what your life requires. You are not behind. You are on time for your own divine appointment with abundance. I declare that I am a ready receiver. This matters more than most people understand. The supply can be released and still be delayed if the receiver is not in a position of readiness. Readiness is not about having everything figured out. Readiness is not about being perfect or polished or free from all the rough edges of human imperfection. Readiness is a posture of the heart. It is the posture that says, I am open. It is the posture that says, I expect good. It is the posture that says, I will not push away what comes to me with the invisible hands of guilt or unworthiness or the subconscious belief that if something good happens, there must be a catch. I release all of those postures now. I release the guilt. I release the unworthiness. I release the bracing for the catch. I open my hands. I open my heart. I open my life to receive fully and freely and without internal resistance. the divine supply that flows to me now. I am ready. I am open. I am expecting. Come. I speak now to the opportunities that carry financial breakthrough within them. They are circling. They are near. Some of them have already appeared in my life in subtle forms that I may have minimized, or dismissed, or not yet recognized for what they were. I ask for eyes to see them. I ask for the wisdom to recognize divine opportunity when it presents itself, even when it arrives in unexpected packaging, even when it does not look the way I imagined it would look, even when it requires a step of faith I did not feel entirely ready to take. I will not let opportunity pass by because it came dressed differently than I expected. I will not let divine supply be refused entry because it came through a door I had not specifically been watching. I remain open to every form, every channel, every surprising and unconventional and magnificent way that God chooses to deliver what has my name on it. Every opportunity is sacred. Every door is potential. Every conversation is possibly a divine connection. Every idea is possibly the seed of the harvest. I pay attention. I stay alert. I stay expectant. And I say yes to what is sent. I now speak to the ideas within me. They are not random. They are not coincidental. They are not the accidental firings of a bored imagination with nothing better to do. The ideas that come to me are divine deposits. They are installments of the supply that has my name on it, delivered not in the form of money first, but in the form of the seed that produces the money, the inspiration that generates the income, the creative insight that opens the financial door through which abundance then walks. Every idea I have is worth examining. Every creative impulse is worth honoring. Every time something rises in my spirit and says, "What if?" or "Try this," or "Go there," or "Say yes," or "Reach out," I pay attention because that voice is connected to a supply system that operates on a frequency far above the noise of my daily anxieties. The supply does not only come as money. Sometimes it comes as the idea that makes the money. Sometimes it comes as the connection that leads to the idea that makes the money. I receive all of it. I honor all of it. I act on all of it with wisdom and with courage. I declare that I walk in favor, not because I earned it, not because I performed well enough to deserve it, not because I checked every box and crossed every threshold of worthiness that human religion has invented to keep people striving and never arriving. I walk in favor because I am a child of the source. I walk in favor because grace is the operating system of the divine, not performance, not perfection, not the accumulation of enough good deeds to tip the scales. Grace. Unmerited, unearned, lavishly generous, extravagantly available grace. And grace says the supply is not contingent on your track record. Grace says the supply was prepared before your track record existed. Grace says the name written on the supply is yours because you belong to the source, and the source is good, and the source gives good gifts, and the source does not revoke what it has prepared based on the imperfection of the person for whom it was prepared. I walk in grace. I walk in favor. And favor makes things happen for me that I did not have the connections or the credentials or the qualifications to make happen in my own strength. I speak now to the financial harvest. It is forming. The seeds I have planted, the seeds of faith and prayer and giving and declaration and aligned action, they are not sitting dormant in the ground of the invisible. They are germinating. They are taking root. They are pushing upward through the soil of the spiritual realm and beginning to break the surface of the physical world in ways I may not yet fully see, but that are already real, already irreversible, already guaranteed by the law that says whatever a person plants, they will also harvest. I have planted abundance. I have planted faith. I have planted generosity. I have planted declaration after declaration of divine truth. And the harvest of those seeds is not maybe coming, it is coming, with the same certainty with which the sun rises, with the same reliability with which the seasons turn, with the same mathematical precision with which the law of sowing and reaping has operated since the beginning of all things. The harvest is coming. My financial harvest is coming. and it is larger than the seed. It is always larger than the seed. I now release every comparison. I release the habit of looking at another person's timeline of financial blessing and using it as evidence that something is wrong with mine. I release the practice of watching someone else step into abundance and feeling diminished by their increase rather than inspired by it. Someone else's harvest is not evidence that mine is late. Someone else's open door is not evidence that mine is closed. The divine supply system is not operating on a finite pool of resources that gets depleted every time someone else receives. There is no scarcity in the source. There is no shortage in the eternal. There is more than enough for every person who aligns with the truth and opens themselves to receive. Someone else's blessing is proof that blessing is real, that it is available, that it flows to those who believe. Their testimony is my encouragement. Their overflow is my preview. Their open door is evidence that the same God who opened it for them has doors prepared for me, and that my door is next. I speak to the supernatural acceleration of my financial life. There are seasons in the divine economy where what would normally take years is compressed into months, where what would normally take months is compressed into weeks, where what would normally require a long and laborious human process is accomplished by divine intervention in a single moment, in a single conversation, in a single phone call, in a single idea that arrives with the force and clarity of lightning and changes the entire trajectory of a financial life. I declare that I am in one of those seasons. I declare that the divine supply that has been in transit toward me is being accelerated. It is not moving on the timetable of natural processes alone. It is moving on the timetable of divine decree. And divine decree does not have to honor the slow, plodding rhythm of human systems when it has decided that the time for a person's breakthrough has arrived. My breakthrough has arrived. My season of acceleration has begun. What I could not make happen in years of striving is happening now by grace. What effort alone could not produce is being produced by the favor of the one who prepared my supply before I knew I needed it. I do not apologize for declaring big things. I do not shrink my expectations to a size that makes other people comfortable with the smallness of their own vision for their lives. I was given this faith for a reason. I was given this capacity to believe, to declare, to expect great things from a great source, for a purpose that is larger than my own comfort, and more significant than the approval of anyone who finds big faith threatening. My faith is big because my source is big. My declarations are bold because the one I am declaring to is not limited by the limits I can see. The supply that has my name on it is not a modest provision. It is not barely sufficient. It is not just enough to get by. It is the kind of supply that comes from a God of more than enough, from a universe of infinite generosity, from a source that does not measure out supply in cautious, careful, insufficient amounts, but pours it out with the extravagance of a creator who has no fear of running out. I receive extravagant supply. I receive more than enough. I receive abundantly above all I have asked or thought, according to the power that works in me. I receive it now. I receive it fully. I receive it with a shout of praise and a heart overflowing with gratitude. Money comes to me now, not later, not when I figure it out, not when the economy improves, not when I find the perfect strategy or meet the perfect mentor or launch the perfect product or wait for the perfect timing that I am engineering in my own understanding. Now, money comes to me now from sources I know and from sources I have not yet discovered. Money comes to me now through ideas I have already had and through ideas that are on their way to me. Money comes to me now through people who are already in my life and through people I have not yet met, who are being divinely directed toward an encounter with me that will change both of our financial realities. Money comes to me now in large amounts and in small amounts, and I honor every form of its arrival because every dollar that touches my hand is evidence of the supply system that has my name on it working exactly as it was designed. I praise the arrival of every single dollar. I welcome it. I bless it. I release it when wisdom says to release it. I save it when wisdom says to save it. I invest it when wisdom says to invest it. And in every transaction, the law of divine increase is at work multiplying, adding, and orchestrating a financial life that exceeds every limit fear ever tried to place on me. I now speak to every person who has tried to delay my supply, every person who has held what belongs to me, every system that has withheld what was rightfully mine, every circumstance that has stood between me and the financial breakthrough that was prepared for my life. I speak to you not with bitterness. I speak to you not with anger or with the dark energy of resentment that would poison my own spirit and slow my own receiving. I speak to you with peace and with authority. What belongs to me cannot be permanently withheld. What has my name on it cannot be indefinitely redirected. Divine supply is not subject to the blocking power of human will or systemic injustice or any force that tries to stand between the believer and what the infinite has prepared. Every wall is coming down. Every blockage is dissolving. Every person or system that thought they had the final word over my financial life is about to discover that divine law has the final word, and divine law says the supply belongs to the one whose name it carries. It belongs to me. And it is finding me now regardless of every obstacle that was placed in its path. I speak now to my bloodline. I speak to the financial patterns that were handed down to me through generations of people who loved me, but who operated from the only financial consciousness they knew, which in many cases was a consciousness of barely enough, of careful saving because there might not be more, of never speaking too boldly about wealth because wanting more than what you had was somehow suspect or ungrateful or presumptuous. I honor those who came before me. I bless their names. I carry their love in my heart. But I do not carry their financial ceiling. I do not inherit their limitations as though they were laws. They were patterns, and patterns can be broken. They were beliefs, and beliefs can be replaced. They were ways of relating to money that served a purpose in their season and their circumstance, but that do not have to define my season or my circumstance. I am the one in my family line who breaks the pattern. I am the one who steps into a new financial reality. I am the one who declares that the generational story of not enough stops with me and a new story, the true story, the story of divine supply and overflow and abundant provision. That story starts with me and flows forward into every generation that comes after. I break every generational financial limitation now. I declare it done. I declare myself free. And I step forward into the financial inheritance that was always prepared for those willing to break ranks with the past and declare something new. I speak to my worth, and I want to spend time here, because this is where so many declarations falter. People know all the right words. They understand the principles of abundance thinking. They have heard the teachings and read the books and listened to the declarations. But somewhere in the private interior of their hearts, there is a quiet, persistent whisper that says, "But not really for me. Not really. Not this much. Not this kind of wealth. Not these kinds of doors. Not this level of favor." And that whisper is the work of a wound, not the voice of truth. It is the accumulated voice of every time someone told you that you were too much or not enough. Every time you were passed over. Every time you put your hand up and were not called on. Every time you brought your best and it was received as ordinary. Every time the world communicated to you, directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously, that your value had a ceiling and you had already reached it. I speak to that wound now. I do not minimize it. I do not tell it that it was not real. It was real. The pain was real. The rejection was real. The messages were real, even when they were wrong. But the wound does not get to write the declaration. The wound does not get to determine what supply has my name on it. The source determines that, and the source determined it before the wound existed, before the rejection happened, before the person who communicated your smallness ever opened their mouth. The source looked at you before any of that and said, yes, abundantly, yes, overflow, yes, more than you can currently imagine, yes. And that yes has never been revoked, and it never will be. You are worth it. Not because you earned it, because you were created by a source that does not make things unworthy of supply. I now speak with fire to the spirit of procrastination that wraps itself around the declarations of people who know the truth but keep finding reasons not to fully step into it. Tomorrow I will declare more boldly. Next month, when things are better, I will believe more fully. Next year, when I can see more evidence, I will expect more completely. No. Today. Now. In this moment, exactly as it is, with the evidence looking exactly as it does, and the circumstances arranged exactly as they are, I declare my supply. I declare my increase. I declare my breakthrough. Not because the conditions are right, but because declaration is what creates the right conditions. Not because the evidence is there, but because declaration is what brings the evidence. The person who waits for evidence before they believe is living by sight, and sight is always delayed. Sight only shows you what has already happened in the invisible realm. Faith shows you what is happening right now, and what is about to break through. I choose faith. I choose now. I choose to open my mouth today, in these exact circumstances, and declare that divine supply has my name on it, and I am not waiting another day to receive it in full. I speak to the prosperity of my home. I speak to the prosperity of the space I inhabit, the environment in which I live, and rest, and think, and create. Let it be filled with peace. Let it be filled with beauty. Let it be a place that reflects the overflow of divine supply. Let the needs of my household be met completely, and let the desires of my household be granted generously. Let my home be a place where lack is a foreign language that no longer finds a translator. Let it be a sanctuary of abundance, of rest, of the quiet, settled assurance that the one who supplies has never forgotten this address and never will. I speak to every financial need connected to my home, and I declare it met. I speak to every bill, every mortgage, every rent, every utility, every maintenance cost, every expense connected to the place I call home, and I declare that the divine supply flowing into my life is more than sufficient to cover it all, and to leave an overflow that becomes a blessing to others. My home is a house of abundance. It is a dwelling of divine supply. It is a place where the evidence of God's faithfulness is visible in every room. I speak to my peace, because there is a kind of financial stress that steals not just your money, but your mind. It steals your sleep at 3 in the morning when the numbers play on the ceiling like a horror film you never chose to watch. It steals your presence in conversations because part of you is always running calculations in the background. It steals your joy in ordinary moments because the cloud of financial anxiety follows you into every room, into every celebration, into every moment of rest, reminding you of what is not yet settled and what is not yet covered and what is not yet resolved. I declare today that this thief no longer has access to my peace. I take my peace back. I take my sleep back. I take my presence back. I take my joy back. The numbers do not run my interior life any longer. The source runs my interior life, and the source is at peace. The source is not anxious about my supply. The source is not lying awake calculating whether there is enough. The source is infinite, and it is at rest, and because I am connected to that source, I am at rest too. Financial peace is part of my divine supply. It has my name on it right alongside the money. I receive the peace. I receive it as fiercely as I receive the financial increase. They come together, they belong together, and they are mine together now. I am grateful. I am deeply, profoundly, genuinely grateful for what is already in my hands, for the provision that has already arrived, for the blessings that are already present in my life, even in this season of believing for more. I do not despise where I am while I reach for where I am going. I honor the now. I bless the current. I give thanks for every evidence of supply already visible in my life, for the roof above me, and the food on my table, and the breath in my lungs, and the mind that works, and the body that carries me, and the relationships that sustain me, and every dollar that has ever come through my hands, regardless of how quickly it moved on. All of it is evidence of a supply system that has never fully abandoned me, even in the hardest seasons. I speak now to the divine intelligence that is arranging things on my behalf right now in the unseen. I speak to every detail being orchestrated for my financial breakthrough. I speak to every conversation being set up, every meeting being aligned, every decision being influenced, every door being prepared to swing open at the exact right moment. I may not be able to see it. I may not be able to track it or understand the mechanics of it or predict which direction it will come from, but I know it is happening. I know that the same intelligence that orchestrates the rising of the sun and the turning of the seasons and the precise and perfect functioning of a universe of incomprehensible complexity is applying that same meticulous attention to the details of my financial breakthrough. Nothing is being left to chance. Nothing is being overlooked. Every element is being carefully, lovingly, brilliantly arranged so that when my supply arrives, it arrives in the most perfect way, through the most perfect channel, at the most perfect moment. I trust that arrangement. I bless that arrangement. I give thanks for that arrangement, even before I can see it with my natural eyes. It is already done. Every detail is already placed. The divine intelligence has not missed a single thing. I speak now to the courage it takes to keep declaring when the evidence is slow, because there will be days when the declaration does not feel powerful. There will be mornings when the words come out and the feelings do not follow, and the mind says, "What is the point?" and the heart feels tired from the waiting. I speak to those days now, and I say, declare anyway, speak anyway. Open your mouth and release the truth, even when your emotions are not cooperating, because the declaration is not dependent on how you feel. The law of divine supply does not take days off because the speaker is having a difficult morning. The word goes out and does its work, regardless of the emotional state of the one who speaks it. This is the discipline of faith. This is the practice that separates those who eventually receive from those who give up in the waiting. Declare on the hard days. Declare in the tired moments. Declare when nothing seems to be moving, and the silence of the invisible feels like absence rather than preparation. Declare because the supply has your name on it, and it is moving toward you, and your declaration is the signal that says, "I am still here, I am still believing, I am still open, bring it to me now." I close this declaration with the full weight of everything I know about the source and the supply and the law and the grace that governs all things. I close it not as a person who is hoping something will eventually work out, but as a person who knows that what has been spoken in faith has already been accomplished in spirit. The declaration is complete. The word is out. The law is moving. The supply is flowing. The name written on the abundance is my name, and what carries my name is finding me now, in ways I expect and in ways I never could have imagined. Through channels I know, and through channels so creative and so surprising that when they appear, I will laugh with joy and weep with gratitude and stand in the worship of a source that never stopped working, even when I could not feel it. Working. That source is faithful. That source is generous. That source is mine. And I am that source's beloved, provided for, named, claimed, supplied, and overflowing. Today and every day that follows. Now and into every tomorrow that the source has already prepared. Divine supply has my name on it. I stop waiting. I start declaring. And the supply arrives. It arrives. It is here. Receive it now, and give thanks. Let this be the day everything shifts. Let this be the moment where the declaration becomes louder than the doubt. Let this be the hour where the faith rises higher than the fear, and the voice of abundance drowns out the voice of lack once and for all. Divine supply has your name on it. Say it. Say it out loud. Say it in the silence of your own mind if you cannot say it aloud right now, but let it move through you. Divine supply has my name on it. I am not waiting for it anymore. I am declaring it. I am claiming it. I am opening every door of my consciousness to receive it. I am standing in the posture of expectancy and gratitude and faith. And the supply is moving. The supply is arriving. The supply is here. It is here in the invisible, and it is breaking through to the visible, and I will see it with my own eyes and hold it in my own hands and use it for every purpose the divine prepared when it placed my name upon it. I receive my supply. I receive my abundance. I receive my financial breakthrough. I receive my open doors. I receive my unexpected blessings. I receive my divine appointments. I receive my ideas, my opportunities, my connections, my increase. I receive it all, with both hands open and a heart overflowing with praise. The declaration has been made. The word has gone out. And the word does not return empty. What I have declared is already done in the realm of spirit, and it is manifesting now in the realm of the physical. My financial life will never be the same. I will never be the same. From this moment forward, I am the person who knows that divine supply has their name on it, and who never again stands in passivity waiting for what they should be declaring into existence. I declare, I receive, I give thanks, and the supply flows, and it flows, and it flows. Now and forever, in perfect ways, under grace, by divine order, for divine purpose, in the name of the source that never fails, never forgets, and never runs out. It is done. And I receive it now.